we're comparing the Florence outlet and the Livermore outlet and which one's worth going to. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Celesta. We talk about all things luxury shopping and handbags. If you love those things, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do post videos every week. So I did go to the Florence outlet, aka the mall, which is about 45 minutes outside of the Florence, back in May. And as soon as I came home, about 3 weeks later, I did end up going to the Livermore outlets, which is in Livermore, but it's called San Francisco Outlets. Why is it called San Francisco Outlets when it's like 45 minutes away from San Francisco? I don't know, but I did go to that outlet. They have a lot of the same stores. So I was really curious to go and see like what is the difference with stock, with price. So I did vlog both experiences, both malls, so you guys can see. So let's just jump right into it and then I'll tell you guys which one I prefer and which one I don't.
Hello guys, so today we are going to the Florence outlets, the mall. It's about 40 minutes outside of Florence and they do have direct buses, which is really nice. It's 15 euros round trip and we did go first thing in the morning. She for sure had the biggest store, but I feel like most of their selections were either older style or outlet specific items. I was surprised to see that they do have like some horse bit and some like bamboo, which is like relatively newer, but I haven't seen a lot of these styles like in the stores on the websites themselves. I feel like they had a lot of outlet specific items, which is why like the pricing and like price comparison isn't as clear because they can really just make it up and like say what the price is. Like this is an outlet specific item and I believe the retail price for this is 9.75 like retail euros, and then you do get the VAT refund back, which I believe is 12%, but to my knowledge this bag never sold in Gucci retail stores, so like, is that really the retail price? I don't know. Compared to the Soho Disco, this was actually sold in the stores. And I remember this being around like $900 to $1,000 before it was discontinued. And I believe now it's like 975 euros as well. Okay, moving over to the shoe section. They had a huge selection of both men's and women's shoes. Personally, not all my taste, but they do have like some more classic shoes. Like these are about half off. They also had a ton of heels. I try to pull more classic, quote unquote, like normal shoes. These are 280 euros compared to 620. They do have some heels, but they also have some that are just like a little bit out there. I do really like this style. I don't know that I would get it in hot pink, but these were 425, so about like half off compared to retail. Like these are really cute, but like would I ever buy them? No. The special pricing was also god awful in my opinion. I do remember this pink Gucci bag being released less than a year ago, or maybe a year ago, and I made a TikTok on it, and it was 1,000 USD. So I have a hard time believing that this bag was actually 980 euros, but that's fine. Now let's move on to Prada. I feel like Prada had a ton of accessories. They had a ton of bags, sunglasses, ready-to-wear shoes. This store was also lumped in with Miu Miu. They did also have outlet-specific items. Like I've never seen this bag in a quilted material before. Personally, for me, if I'm only saving like 200 bucks, I'd rather just get the original reedition. I think that has a little bit of a better resale value. Not that like you're buying a plan on resale, but it's kind of just a safety net. I remember this Clio from previous seasons, and I feel like this is actually a really good deal. It's more than half off of the original price. I do think these wallet on chains make for really good like first designer handbags. And of course they had a ton of ready to wear and accessories. I also remember this little summer like gingham bag from last year. They do have a puffy style right now, which currently retails for 1750 euros. And I think this colorway is super cute, but nothing really like spoke to me. So we're heading over to Montclair. I don't know if I went in just with like too high expectations, but even if something at Montclair was 30% off, I don't know that I would necessarily buy it unless I really wanted it. Now we're heading to YSL. They were probably the most strict in terms of filming, and they had very limited bags, or they're very seasonal, like shearling, velvet, all of those very seasonal. If you're looking for like the newer styles from YSL, like that shoulder bag, hobo bag, like you're not gonna find it. Most of the styles that they did have were a bit older. Thing with Bottega, they did have a lot more older styles. I want to say like the Arco Toe is probably one of the newer styles that they have. They either have older styles or very bold colors, I would say. This clutch was actually really cute. I think this is an older style, but they do have really pretty colors available. And then they have, I believe this is the candy size for the crossbody. crossbody. However, I was very impressed with all the shoe selections that they had at Bottega. Jimmy Choo was one of my favorites. I feel like they had the best selection. They had some new styles or current styles, and they didn't have it in just like ugly colors as well, and a huge collection of bridal shoes. So if you are getting married, this would be a great opportunity to get some bridal shoes. I did pop in a Fendi as well. Nothing really spoke to me except for this like stupidly tiny peekaboo. I thought this was so adorable, but it fit absolutely nothing. And I believe it retailed for around like $700. Last stop was Celine. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty disappointed. They didn't have any Triomphe styles. They mainly had the belt bag and the box bag. All of the bags were 35% off.
Okay, so today we are going to the Livermore outlets, aka San Francisco outlets. Start with Gucci, and I don't think I've been here since they renovated the store, and it looks so different. They have a ton of bag selections, a lot of which are like older styles and or outlet styles. I will say their shoe selection, at least in my opinion, was better than the Florence outlets. They were a little bit pricier, but I feel like these are shoes that I'd probably wear more. I also feel like they're a little bit more current. I actually love these like sparkle sneakers, and then they did have a ton of ready to wear, some of which were like special edition, limited edition. Like they did have like the Adidas collection still, but they definitely had their fair share of like outlet specific items, stuff I've never seen before. This definitely is a lot smaller than the Florence outlet, but I feel like the Florence outlet also had a lot of just open space to shop versus this store is packed with inventory. They did have a ton of bags. I do feel like the pricing for some of the bags, especially if you're comparing it to Florence, is comparable. It really depends on the item though, but I also feel like they had a lot more current style stuff. However, I will say going into this outlet compared to the Florence outlet, they were very discreet about pricing. So if you were to like look inside the bag and look for the tag and whatnot in Florence, you'd be able to find it. Here, not so much. Moving over to Bottega, they did have some Arco totes, different sizes, but they weren't kind of like the classic Arco tote. They did have this very similar bag that I saw in the Florence outlet for 1,120 euros compared to like the 1,400 euros. However, they had a ton of shoe selections for so cheap, like literally $150 pair of shoes, and I couldn't even believe like these were the deals that they were running. They're definitely not like the most current styles. Like they didn't have anything from like the Knot or anything like that, but if you are looking for a pair of like simple shoes, they definitely have them here for very cheap. I also feel like they had more SLG collection compared to the Florence outlets. It could also just be like the time that we went. This store is smaller, but I feel like they did have quite a few options that did like pique my interest. Moving over to Jimmy Choo, we have to talk about this little bonbon bag. This was so cute. I believe it is $12.90, and they had a ton of styles. I feel like they had less bridal shoes than the Florence outlet. So if you are looking for like bridal specific, they had some stuff, but not as much as Florence. I also feel like this store is just a lot smaller compared to Florence. YSL actually surprisingly did not disappoint as much. I think when I went into the Florence outlet, they barely had any bags. They only had a lot of very seasonal bags, suede, shearling, and yes, I am still seeing a ton of suede and shearling, but they also have like really cute like hot pink bags. This is pretty recent, and this was actually a really good deal. I feel like YSL also just had less shoes, but they had a lot more bags compared to Florence. We did pop into the Longchamp outlet, which the Florence outlets do not have, and they have a lot of seasonal colors. Headed over to Prada. I was so surprised that they had this Crystal Re edition for $1,100. Like what? They also had very similar or the same styles as the Florence outlet. Like this was about $400 more though for the same bag, and they did have a ton of shoes and ready to wear. They did have the Raffia Clio, but it was like $400 or $500 more expensive than in Florence. And then we did head over to Moncler. I feel like Moncler disappointed less than the Florence outlet. They had a lot of colors. They had a lot of neutral colors. However, pricing wasn't that great. So both outlets actually have very similar stores. The Livermore outlet has a lot more stores that are not luxury specific, but if you were to look at the Florence outlet and the main stores that they have and compare it to the Livermore outlet, Livermore does actually have a lot of those stores. A lot of the same stores include YSL, Bottega, Gucci, Prada, Jimmy Choo, Burberry, McQueen, Armani, Brunello Cucinelli, Loro Piana, Moncler, Tod's, Versace. The only stores that they don't have that Florence has specifically actually is Celine, Balenciaga, and Fendi. And I think for me, the store that I was most excited to go to in Florence was actually the Celine outlet, because I don't believe we have a Celine outlet here. I could be wrong, but they for sure don't have one in Livermore. And I was looking forward to that store the most. It was honestly just really small. They had very limited stock. They had a lot of styles for the box bag and the Celine belt bag, but both, like, I already had the Celine belt bag and I sold it for a reason. And they didn't have any of the newer styles. They didn't have outlet specific items, to my understanding. And so as much as pricing was relatively good, there wasn't anything that really piqued my interest. I think for that reason, I was actually really disappointed in that store. To give them the benefit of the doubt, I did go in with higher expectations. I do feel like each store in Florence is bigger. So there's a lot more space. They have a lot more selections. However, if you were to look at the most popular items like the bags, SLGs, I feel like both of the outlets are very comparable. I do feel like Florence has more ready-to-wear pieces, and things are just a little bit more spaced out compared to the Livermore outlets. I've said this before and I'll say this again. I feel like the Florence outlet is just not worth going to, especially if you are either on your first time going to Florence or you're on a very limited schedule. I think this time we did take the time to go to the outlets, given that this was our second time in Florence and we've kind of already done all the touristy things and whatnot. I don't know that I would do it again. I think that, like, I would have much rather taken that half a day that we did spend at the outlets doing something else within Florence or within Tuscany. And like, we've had friends who go like truffle hunting in Tuscany and wine tasting and all of these things. And I would have much preferred to do that over go to the outlets, knowing that the stock is very similar. I will say Florence does have better pricing compared to US, because you are saving on the VAT refund and you don't have to pay sales tax like you do here in America. And also in Livermore, I think the sales tax is around 10%. So you have to take that into consideration as well. But with Livermore, I do like that you are able to shop luxury stores and non-luxury stores. So you're able to hit your Moncler and YSL and Gucci and Prada and all of these things. And then you're also then able to go to Abercrombie and Longchamp and Oakenfourt, and like they have a ton of stores that you're still able to shop. I think if you're looking for like an overall more well-rounded shopping experience, I think Livermore takes the cake for that one, because they do have other stores. They have more food options. It's just in general a more like walkable and like enjoyable area to spend your time. It is hot as hell, but compared to Florence, I feel like they only have the 1 or 2 restaurants at the mall, and you're really only there to shop, and then you get back on the bus and you go. So it's not exactly like a loiter around, walk around, eat, relax, and shop. It's like shop and then leave. And I think that's kind of the main difference. I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if you've been to either of these outlets, which one you guys prefer, or if there's an outlet near you which you think is like better, that's worth checking out. I'm open to hearing all of your thoughts. I'll leave another video for you guys here, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!